The door groaned as it swung open downstairs. My husband was present in the house. In the intimate confines of our bedroom, I found myself with another man. Shame had to flood me, had to catch me. At that moment, all I felt was a feeling of overwhelming guilt. I tell my own story, not expecting anyone to sympathize or forgive me. But I'm just a girl with a weak soul. Please understand me. Marriages unravel in tumultuous and chaotic manners. It does not belong to me. Introduce myself, I am Emily. Residence is nestled in a serene cul-de-sac in suburban Georgia. Years, I have shared my life with Gabriel as his spouse. Essence of routine. Each morning, I find myself reaching for the same cup of black coffee. Identical navy blue suit. Another dinner at 7. For the last 2 months. The cold side of the bed remains unchanged. He simply ceased to make contact with me. No explanation provided. There is no debate. No evidence of an affair could I establish. Only separation. He would arrive home, plant a gentle kiss on my cheek, and immediately turn his attention to his laptop. He would recline beside me as if I were merely another item in the room. Initially, I believed it was merely stress. The demands of work had weighed heavily upon him. I prepared additional meals. Once, I attempted to embrace a sultry allure, donning a silk robe as I glided into the kitchen, yearning for his gaze to linger upon me. Quiet night, I slipped into bed, unadorned, and curled myself around him. He was not inclined to engage. I recall the moment, vulnerable and shamed, stifling my tears as he turned away from me as if I were tainted. 2 months slipped away, my self-esteem withered away. I found myself gazing into the mirror, dissecting my form, questioning whether I still held any allure, still captivating, still a lady. It was at that moment that Michael made his entrance. He was the son of our neighbors. At 25, he had just returned from the military, taking refuge with his parents for a few months before embarking on a new chapter in California. Each morning, he ran by my window, bare-chested and unrestrained. I feigned indifference. Yet, oh, how my gaze betrayed me. He stood tall, his caramel skin glistening, adorned with tattoos that snaked up his arms like delicate vines. And he saw me, consistently courteous, perpetually beaming. Yet, his gaze lingered, causing my thighs to instinctively press together. Quiet afternoon, as I tended to the plants in front yard. He paused to engage in conversation. Was insignificant, yet my heart raced with each of his arrivals. Lend a hand with the household chores. Repair a wobbly cabinet. Hedge, merely being neighborly. Serene Sunday morning, Gabriel set out early for a golf excursion with his colleagues. The porch, cradling a warm cup of coffee in my hands, clad in a silk tank and shorts. It was then that Michael approached, his shirt absent, beads of sweat shimmering on chest. Whether I would like assistance in arranging the new porch umbrella. Backyard, he turned his gaze toward me, a gaze that felt deep and searching. Manner of a neighbor, manner of a friend, man on the brink of starvation, finally catching sight of sustenance. Voice barely above a whisper. Have deceived, smile should have graced my lips. Eyes and murmured, I can't recall the last moment someone reached out to me. Shift occurred in his expression. Fingers brushed against mine as he passed me the wrench. Contact was fleeting, yet it sparked a flame within me that I believed had long been extinguished. Days that followed, he continued to appear with regularity. Lips never met, boundaries. Strain between us became increasingly intolerable. Thursday, it finally occurred, the late hours of the night. House, the bedroom, meticulously folding laundry. A gentle knock from Michael interrupted the quiet, and he entered the room with a soft step. Arrived to bring back a garden implement. Justification, door firmly behind him. Proceed. In place, his gaze fixed on me, his chest rising and falling with each breath. Get you out of my mind, he confessed. Have turned and left, have declined, found myself in a state of hunger. Lips to his, and the instant our mouths met, a sensation washed over me as if I had been drawn from the depths of the ocean. Hands bore the texture of experience. while his breath carried an intensity that lingered in the air. Dresser as if I were a mere feather. And in an instant, our garments dissolved away. Was neither slow nor gentle. Was unrefined, state of utter despair. Connection that resonates deep within your very being. Intense, it erases your very identity. As I believed that nothing could tarnish that perfect moment, the sound of the garage door interrupted us. Before had I experienced such speed in my life. Garage door creaked open. My legs instinctively shoved Michael away from me, body still tinged with the aftermath of our recent encounter. Panties slipped down to rest around one ankle. Found myself quaking, caught in the throes of both the peak and the pandemonium. Bloused together, fastening the buttons in a haphazard manner, and nudged Michael toward the walk-in closet. Sharp hiss. Decision not to engage in an argument. Closet without uttering a sound. His labored breaths intertwining with my own in the stillness. My chest, the ache nestled between my thighs, and his scent enveloped my skin like a haunting memory. Time was insufficient. Taken the time to style my hair. Door opening downstairs sent a chill through me, halting my every movement. Gabriel's voice reverberated throughout the house, powerful and tumultuous. Regulated, however, it is premature. He was meant to be away for at least another 3 hours. I dashed toward the mirror. My cheeks were warm, lipstick smudged, a love mark blossoming on my collarbone like a bruise. I fastened my blouse with care this time, draped a cardigan over it, and misted perfume into the air to conceal the lingering aromas of sweat and intimacy. Gabriel's footsteps echoed as they approached the stairs. I made an effort to soothe my nerves, mustering a smile as I entered the hallway. "Hey," I remarked, with a nonchalant air, "you have returned home early." He pressed his lips gently against my cheek. I recoiled. It marked the first occasion in weeks that his fingers had brushed against my skin. The meeting concluded earlier than anticipated, and he responded, striding past me into the bedroom. "I thought it might be delightful to catch you off guard." I nearly chuckled. The irony was almost suffocating. His gaze swept across the room, finally resting on the disheveled bed. I noticed the way he hesitated. I caught a glimpse of a sharp glint in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he inquired. I nodded with excessive haste. "It's simply a languid morning. Washing and various chores." He settled into the chair at the desk, flipping open his laptop with a sense of purpose. In an instant, as though the atmosphere was not charged with remorse, as though another man lurked behind our garments in the closet, a mere 10 feet away, my heart pounded so fiercely that I feared he might catch its rhythm. "I am going to shower," I declared, reaching for my phone. "Very well." I quietly entered the bathroom, secured the door, and let the water run, hoping to wash away the rising tide of anxiety. I messaged Michael, "Remain where you are. Silence is paramount." He responded without delay, "Understood." 15 excruciating minutes dragged on. I stepped back into the room, a towel draped casually over my shoulders, feigning an air of normalcy. With his headphones snugly in place, Gabriel was lost in a world of words, fingers dancing across the keyboard. He was utterly oblivious. I whispered to Michael through the narrow gap of the closet, "Just wait until he falls asleep." He inclined his head in acknowledgement. That evening, sleep eluded me. Gabriel rested beside me, finally near, yet still apart. His breathing reached my ears, a tranquil and rhythmic sound. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, not out of remorse, emerging from bewilderment. What led us to this moment? At 2 a.m., when I was convinced he had succumbed to the depths of slumber, I gently prodded Michael awake. He crept silently out the back door, his bare feet gliding over the cool ground as he vanished into the shadows, leaving no trace of his departure. The vacant hallway held my gaze long after he had departed. On the following day, Gabriel appeared to be just like any other day, excessively ordinary. He presented me with a bouquet of flowers, collected the takeout, gently massaged my shoulders for a fleeting moment as I chopped the vegetables. I was momentarily paralyzed by his actions. The last instance of him displaying even that degree of affection eludes my memory. You appear to be quite tense. He remarked. I am well, though that may not be entirely true. That evening, he invited me to sit beside him on the couch. We experienced a film. His hand found its way to my thigh once more, seemingly out of the blue. The heat of his touch caused me to recoil. My skin still held the echoes of Michael. I have missed you, Gabriel said suddenly. I gazed at him, uncertain of the game he was orchestrating. Have you? I inquired gently. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. I have recently felt a bit out of sorts. The demands of work and the weight of stress finally overwhelmed me. I recognize that I have been somewhat removed. I apologize. I took a deep breath. The moment had passed, and time slipped away. He drew closer and pressed his lips against mine. A gentle, lingering kiss, yet it seemed unfamiliar. It feels akin to the unexpected touch of a stranger's lips. My stomach coiled with embarrassment. I allowed him to kiss me, yet I refrained from returning the gesture. I was unable to. That evening, he attempted to share an intimate moment with me. Endeavored. He possessed a gentle nature. Proceed with caution. It was as though it could perceive my uncertainty. Yet, I found myself absent from that moment. My body was present, yet my mind was ensnared in a loop, revisiting every fleeting moment from the day prior. Michael's hands, Michael's insatiable desire, Michael's unfiltered essence. Gabriel completed his task with haste, turned over, and softly murmured, "We will return to our connection." Yet, I found myself no longer desiring us. I found myself perplexed, unable to grasp the reason behind it. It was not until 3 days later that the situation erupted in chaos. As I wandered the aisles of the grocery store, the call came through. It came from Gabriel. "Where are you?" he inquired, his tone chillingly cold. "Gabriel," I replied, "is there anything more we require?" Stillness. Then he uttered 4 words that dismantled everything. "I am familiar with Michael." The carton of eggs slipped from my grasp and fell to the ground. They crashed violently against the floor. Individuals shifted their gaze. My mouth felt parched. "What is it that you are referring to?" I murmured. "You allowed him entry into our home, into our sanctuary." My knees gave way beneath me. I rested against the shopping cart, seeking its steady support. "Come home," he said, his voice devoid of warmth. At this moment, the journey home seemed to stretch into eternity, each moment dragging on as if time itself had slowed to a crawl. My hands quivered against the steering wheel. My stomach twisted in turmoil, as though a toxic presence writhed within me. Gabriel's voice lingered in my thoughts. I know about Michael. Each red light, each stop sign, felt as though time were taunting me, elongating the anxiety, entwining the fear more tightly within my core. As I eased my vehicle into the driveway, a sense of arrival washed over me. His car sat parked outside as it always did, yet an unsettling sense of difference lingered in the air. The door stood slightly open. The curtain was drawn back just a fraction. The house appeared vigilant, as if it possessed an uncanny awareness of the impending events. As I crossed the threshold, the keys jingled softly in my grasp. The stillness was overwhelming. Television is absent. Silence reigns, devoid of any footsteps. Only silence. Then, his voice echoed from the kitchen. "Kindly shut the door, please." I certainly did, gradually, with great care. Gabriel lingered at the counter, a bottle of bourbon resting beside him, partially devoid. His eyes were puffy and swollen, crimson streaked, not from the bottle, but from the sting of treachery. He grasped an object in his hand. A diminutive, cubic artifact, a flash drive. "You neglected to log out of your laptop," he remarked. My heart plummeted. He continued, his voice unnervingly serene. "There was a video, footage captured by the living room camera, revealing the events that unfolded. I never mentioned that I had installed it, to ensure safety, not intended for surveillance. Yet, that was my perspective. I was on the verge of collapsing at that moment. My knees gave way beneath me. I clutched the wall tightly. "Dear Gabriel," I murmured. He halted my words with a commanding gesture of his hand. Silence. he commanded. Simply, take a seat. I complied, shuffling to the stool as if I were a guilty soul anticipating my fate. My eyes burned with tears I could no longer contain. He filled his glass once more, then gazed at me as if I were a stranger, an unfamiliar figure. Was it merely a singular occurrence? He inquired. I gulped with difficulty. Negative. Did you truly love him? There was a moment of uncertainty. I am uncertain. His visage contorted. That was more disappointing than a simple affirmation. Did you ever consider me while you were with him? His voice faltered. He was unable to complete it. I hadn't intended it, I murmured. It simply occurred. He let out a derisive laugh. Absolutely not, Emily. Accidental coffee spills are a part of life. Finding oneself ensnared by the rain is an inevitable occurrence. Opening oneself to another man is not a spontaneous act. A shiver of discomfort coursed through me. He stood, now lost in a rhythm of pacing. The bourbon swirled within his glass. You implored me for 2 long months to lay my hands upon you. I firmly declined. I caused you to feel as though you were not desired. I rendered you a mere specter within the confines of your own sanctuary. I acknowledge that. I gazed upward, a swirl of confusion enveloping me. Yet, I found myself grappling with the weight of depression. Emily, he confessed. I found myself submerged, gasping for air. I was unaware of the depths to which I had descended, and rather than extending your hand towards me, you chose to reach for Michael. My heart lay in fragments. Each shard of guilt pierced more profoundly. I ought to have spoken with you. I murmured. I ought to have inquired about what was troubling you. You ought to have waited. He remarked. You ought to have stood up for me. I would have fought for you. I wept freely now, a cry that pierces the soul. It sears its way from your throat down to your chest. I apologize, I said. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. I understand. He approached the drawer and retrieved an envelope. I have already reached out to a lawyer. I ceased to draw breath. Gabriel, this union was fractured long before Michael laid a hand upon you. Yet, that was the final word. I made an attempt to rise, to implore, yet he turned and left. Please, I implored, tears streaming down my cheeks. Let us resolve this matter. He turned, for the last time. You showed no reluctance as you welcomed him into your embrace. Now is not the time for hesitation. He then stepped outside. The front door shut with a definitive thud, leaving my spirit in a hushed stillness. The subsequent days unfolded in a haze. I took up residence in a motel just down the street. Partake in sustenance. Night descended like a sentence of torment. Man I shattered lingers in every mirror, a specter of my own making. Attempt to reach out via phone. Have severed all ties with him. Was no resolution that brought joy. There has never been, in the quiet hours of those restless nights, a revelation dawned upon me. I refrained from infidelity as my feelings for Gabriel had faded. I betrayed trust because I lost sight of my own worth. I allowed longing to obscure my suffering. I allowed desire to mask the void within. In that moment, I scorched the heart of the one who loved me most deeply. After 3 months, the divorce reached its conclusion. Gabriel parted ways with the house. Relocated to North Carolina, a mutual friend informed me that he is currently in a relationship with someone new. A counselor. Appropriate. Healing must begin within the heart. Regarding my perspective, I continue to bear my scar with pride. At times, I awaken with a start. Breathless, as the memory of his words lingers, I know about Michael. Everything slipped away from me, all because I believed I was isolated in my struggle. Yet, the reality remains. I withdrew into solitude. I crafted my own stillness. And then I infused it with treachery. This narrative transcended the mere tale of my betrayal. It was the tale of my disintegration. Perhaps, just perhaps, this marks the dawn of my redemption. Thank you for engaging with this unfiltered and authentic narrative. What actions would you have taken if you found yourself in Gabriel's position? Could you find it in your heart to forgive? Would you turn your back and leave? Or would you pursue retribution? We invite you to express your thoughts in the comments section below. Your voice holds significance, and your viewpoint aids in the healing of another. Prepare for an influx of authentic, unfiltered, and deeply moving narratives on the horizon. Keep your eyes peeled.